Good evening, Camby. Welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for, September 1st of 2021. Yes, August did go that quickly. And here we are. We have a light agenda, but some really great things this evening. And the first up is we're going to take you to the Canby Police Department station, and we have the promotion of one of our officers to sergeant. And I'm going to let Chief Tro take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to have Nate Walbaum come on up first. Just stand right here. Can you hear us okay? Great. First, thanks for giving us some time tonight to recognize the promotion of Officer Nate Walbaum from officer to sergeant. This is a significant accomplishment, and I believe it should be recognized publicly. It has been said that a sergeant is one of the most important positions at a police department, and I would have to agree 100%. A lot of people already know Nate Walbaum and his wonderful family who is here, but for those who don't, let me tell you a little bit about him. Officer Walbaum grew up in Canby. He graduated from Canby High School. I'm not going to say the year he graduated, but it was many years ago. His family has lived in the area for approximately 40 years and have deep roots in the Canby community. Officer Walbaum attended Multnomah University, where he received his bachelor's degree. And I believe he also played basketball there. Is that right?
In intramurals.
A little bit? All right. Yeah. After college, he served as a youth pastor at a local church, which opened some doors to a career in the juvenile justice system. Officer Walbaum served as a diversion counselor for the Clackamas County Juvenile Department. He was responsible for holding first-time teen offenders accountable in Canby and Oregon City areas. While there, he developed key relationships with the law enforcement profession, and that's where I first met Officer Walbaum, and I was impressed with him from the very start. It had been Officer Walbaum's desire to become a Canby police officer from an early age, 3 to 4 years old. I was not here when he was 3 or 4, so. Officer Walbaum's first break was when he got hired by the Beaverton Police Department in 2007. He was then recruited to come to Canby PD in 2010. He did leave briefly in 2013, but learned from his error of his ways and was welcomed back in 2015. And he is here to stay, is that correct?
That's right.
Until he retires.
Yeah.
Officer Walbaum has enjoyed several different assignments throughout his 14-year career. He started off at first as a patrol officer. He served in the school as a grade officer. He was also on our agency's tactical entry team, as well as the Clackamas County interagency SWAT team. His last assignment has been a police detective, where he focused most of his efforts on person crimes. Officer Walbaum is also a member of our peer support team. He is always willing to lend an officer a hand or an ear to listen and assist them through hard times. I believe this is one of his greatest strengths. Officer Walbaum loves helping and serving the citizens of Canby and is grateful to give back to the community he grew up in. He has been married to his wife, Jocelyn, for 21 years, and he says she is a reason for his success. They have 4 children and are active in their church, kids' sports, and enjoy exploring the beauty of Oregon. Officer Walbaum has a few nicknames he is known by. One of them is Wally. Another one is Walbaum. And his latest one is Mr. PDY. You'll have to ask him about that one. Please join me in congratulating Sergeant Nate Walbaum. I'm officially going to give him his sergeant badge, and I'm going to have his wife come up and pin it onto him. Anything you would like to say, Sergeant Walbaum?
Yeah. Well, I am very grateful for the opportunity to serve this council this chief, the command staff, and then my brothers and sisters here at the Canby Police Department, and most of all, the community. I feel like I know this community best, like the back of my hand. I grew up here, so when it was small, had one blinking light, you know, and where the people came together to basically protect each other, keep each other safe, and watch out for each other. And it's grown, it's exploded. So we have an awesome town. Like Chief Tro said, I've been around. I've been in bigger agencies, and hands down, there's a reason I came back the second time after I learned from the error of my ways. But I'm passionate about this town because bigger isn't always better, and there's something special here that Canby represents, that I think that maybe this nation's still desiring and looking for, in that close knit connection with people, with things to do. And anyways, it's my promise to you, you know, coming into a leadership position, it's difficult because for me, it'll be less about the individual chase and about mentoring the young women or men and women that are under my care, and mentoring them, being there for them. I'm thrilled. It's awesome. So it's my promise to you, you know, it isn't just about this department, but first and foremost, it's about this community and bringing a good name to this agency and also this city. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Congratulations, Nate. Well deserved. I know you will do well.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
So,
Mayor and Council.
Sergeant Walbaum,
Yes, sir.
I just want to say congratulations.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Just wanted to say congratulations on your promotion. You have been a tremendous asset to Canby PD in this community for such a very long time, and this is a well-deserved honor. You made the comment about being in a position of leadership, and I think you've always been in a position of leadership in this community and with the police department. I think this position catches up with the leadership that you've been providing for so long, and I'm thankful that we have officers like you that are making Canby safe, making our community a great place to live. So thank you for all that you do and all the rest of the force there for what you all do as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it all very much. Congratulations, Nate. Or Sergeant Walbaum, pardon me. Okay. That is one of my favorite things that we do as a council is being a part of those things and seeing our officers get recognized for the hard work that they do. So next on our agenda this evening is citizen input and community announcements. I think we have two, if I'm correct. Melissa?
Yes, we have Jason Patton here first.
All right. Mr. Patton wants to address us regarding the Parks Master Plan. Mr. Patton, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City staff. I'm Jason Patton. I'm at 1040 North Birch Street here in Canby. I had a epiphany the other day that I wanted to share with you. Well, on the Planning Commission, I know that the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is currently underway, and there is an item that I think you should consider adding to that plan, and that is either, however you wish to call it, ag or rural land reserve, you can call it. So back when I was running for council and was getting signatures, this was not necessarily my idea, but an individual shared with me their thought of having some of the land that is either within the city limits or will someday be in the city limits set aside for ag purposes. Because the soil types are so coveted here in the Willamette Valley, especially here in Canby, it is a shame that with every single...
You cut out, Jason. You cut out, Jason. We cannot hear you, sir. Now we can. Nope. Now there we go.
Is that better?
There we go.
Okay. So I was saying, this individual that was sharing this with me, and I agree with them, that it would be wise for the Parks and Recreation, the Parks District, to purchase land that before it gets covered up with houses, so that in the future it can either become community garden space or tree planting similar to Eco Park, something to sort of preserve and reserve some of the ag heritage that Canby was founded on. So I don't know whether that's something you can add to the list to consider, but I think that would be a fantastic idea in providing some space and land for future generations here in the city as it continues to grow. And that's all I had.
Thanks, Jason, for sharing that. That is actually a really good share and idea. So earlier we were talking before we got on camera about poking fun at where the mayor says that he grew up, because I often reference growing up in the Midwest, and I usually leave out the fact that I did do a small stint in Southern California. It was a couple of years. It was like 6, okay? But I will say that the high school that I attended and where it was located, part of the land that was donated or provided for the high school required a large segment of the land to be dedicated for ag purposes. And so it had a working farm, and so it had an active FFA chapter and things along those natures. And so the students could raise animals and learned a lot from an agricultural standpoint. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. That might be an interesting partnership to have with the school district to designate an area of land for just that purpose. So thanks for bringing that forward. That will be shared with the park master plan group. Great. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Next up for citizen input is Representative Christine Drazen. She asked for some time to address the council regarding redistricting that's going on at the state level, and give us some updates regarding that. So if we have any questions on that, we'll give her plenty of time to talk about the redistricting piece and then any questions that we might have for her. Representative Drazen.
Hi guys, I'm trying to figure out why my camera is facing my kitchen and not me. If you guys really want to see my kitchen, now's your chance. Let's see if I can turn on the video and figure out why that is. Oh, there I am. Hi guys. Thank you for giving me a few minutes today. I would like to, I know it's been covered in the press, and I would imagine that you guys have followed along really closely with some of these details, but we just completed the census in 2020, which means that 2021 is upon us, and it is time to rebalance out our population among our legislative seats for the House and the Senate. And also, Oregon has enough population to have gained a congressional seat. So up until now, of course, as you guys know, we have 5 congressional seats. The brand new sixth congressional seat will be determined through the redistricting process that we're undertaking right now. The reason I wanted to come before you guys today is that we are coming up on an opportunity for public comment. And I would like to invite anybody that is interested in engaging in this process and sharing your thoughts and your perspective on where these political boundaries could or should be placed to participate in that process. Because we're remote, I wanted to go through a few of the details of what that's going to be like. So it won't just be coming down to Salem, coming into a hearing room, sitting down and signing up on a clipboard like it might have been 10 years ago. So we have a website. It is OregonLegislature.gov/redistricting. From that website, citizens can log into our mapping application themselves should they choose to. It's called ESRI. And there are training videos on the website that will teach you how to actually draw your own maps. You can draw your own congressional maps, you can draw your own House maps, your own Senate maps, and you can submit it to the committee for consideration. You can also submit what your principles were when you draw the maps. Of course, we have constitutional guidelines that must be met. And we also have statutory guidelines here in Oregon for how we draw our legislative lines. And so all of those guidelines will have to be met for whatever maps you submit. And after you draw your maps, you can click submit and it will automatically score your map for whether or not you have met the requirements of our state. So it is, I'm not gonna kid anybody, it's hard. So to go through the process of being able to draw district boundaries across the whole state, you cannot submit just one district. You have to submit the entire state if you're going to undertake this process. The map will be accepted if you submit a map that meets the integrity test of all the requirements, and one of those requirements is it has to be a complete statewide map. But if you choose not to draw your own map, that is also fine. We would welcome your input and your engagement. We are going to begin public hearings by congressional district. So beginning September the 8th, going through September the 13th, you can engage in this process. Now, because it's virtual, I'm going to need you to go to OregonLegislature.gov/redistricting, go down to our public hearing section of the page, click on the date that applies to you. So obviously we're in the 5th Congressional District here in Camby. And the dates that are available for the 5th Congressional District are Thursday, September the 9th at 1 o'clock. That hearing is going to last a couple of hours. If you sign up to testify virtually, don't expect to go on at a given time. It's going to take some time, and you'll be in the waiting room, and then you'll come up on the screen. You're also available to testify on Monday, September the 13th at 8 a.m. And again, that'll be a couple-hour window where they will cycle through people who are interested in testifying at that time. If you can't make those dates, we will have a statewide date where it's for anybody that wasn't able to attend in their own congressional district, and that's Monday, September the 13th, 1 p.m., or Monday, September the 13th at 5:30. If you click on the link, it's going to take you to a form that you have to fill out, and it'll ask your name, and you'll have to fill out the forms, which congressional district, and then you will receive a link. And so I know it's a little bit of a process this time because everything's virtual. We needed to go to virtual hearings because of how the COVID cases were rising across the state. And so it's all virtual. So please go to the form, fill out the form. You will receive back a link that will be your entry into the meeting. When you get into the meeting, you will have between 3 and 6 minutes to speak. You'll need to identify yourself, and then you can go into your comments. Some of the issues that will align with statutory requirements in Oregon, you will be able to comment on the maps that the committee members have posted. So starting this Friday, there will be maps to look at that will come from all of the caucuses and the public. They'll all be posted. You can comment on any of the maps that are publicly available, or you can comment on your own map that you have submitted. You can talk about, without commenting on a specific map, you can talk about what your community of common interest needs out of redistricting. For some people in prior public hearings, they've commented and said, please don't connect Astoria with Portland. We don't share anything in common. I don't think that would make a good map. That is an absolutely legitimate comment, or anything in between. Some people have said, if you want to hold together a community of common interest for me, then I need you to, keep my school district whole. I want to have a district that doesn't break up my school district, or I want to have a district that doesn't break up my town. Anything that relates to where these lines should be placed in response to what your values are as Oregonians is going to be taken into consideration, is going to be weighed as we evaluate the maps and begin the process of finalizing what our political boundaries will be in the state. So I just wanted to make people aware of the fact that we need engagement. The redistricting process really does need people to engage in this process and tell us whether or not you feel well served by the lines you currently have, or if you're looking for something completely different for the political boundaries that you live under. This is your chance. And these lines are going to be in place for the next decade until the next census. So thank you guys for the time today. And I just want to say one more time, the website, it's OregonLegislature.gov/redistricting. That is where you will sign up to testify if you are interested in providing public comment live. If you don't want to provide public comment live, there is a link on that same page to just submit written testimony. That is also welcome. It's also important. So thank you guys for your time tonight.
Christine, can you give those dates and times again for the potential hearing?
Yep. Yes. So Congressional District 5 is Thursday, September the 9th, 1 p.m. Well, there we are. This is the flyer.
Okay.
So Congressional District 5, Thursday, September 9th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and Monday, the 13th, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then if you'll see right below that, statewide. If you can't do the earlier dates, join in statewide. Or if you go to the website at the bottom, OregonLegislature.gov/redistricting, you can click on the link. There's an email link on that page, and you can submit written testimony.
All right. Councilor Hensley, Council President Hensley, you had your hand up.
I did, but she actually ended up answering my question in the rest of her talk, so I'm good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Representative Drazen? Councilor Spoon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to thank you, Representative Drazen, for coming. I've always appreciated how engaged you are with our community. I think that's important that our representatives are engaged. So I wrote down all these dates and I'm going to send it out to people. If they can't make any of those, or if they want to talk to you directly, are you willing to share your personal contact information, like as far as a representative, so that if people wanted to connect with you? But before you do that, I wanted to say I particularly appreciate your example of connecting Astoria to Portland, because I think gerrymandering is a real concern for people and making sure that the district map is accurately representative of the district. And so I just want to thank you for coming and talking about it, because this is not an issue that should be left unnoticed by people. It should be engaged. And so I appreciate that. I want your contact information, but is there also a committee, and maybe it already closed, that people can join if they want to be part of the process? I know at one point the state was looking for diverse input from people so that it wasn't just a single segment of the community engaged. Do you know if that's already closed, or can you speak to that?
Yeah, let me speak to that a little bit. So the process that I am referencing is the legislative process, and we're going to go into special session September 20th through September 27th to evaluate the work of this committee and to potentially pass maps at that time. If the legislature fails to come to agreement, then the process of drawing the legislative maps goes to Secretary of State Shemia Fagan. She has opened up a process to create a People's Commission to receive input on the activity that she might at that point need to undertake, which is to draw legislative maps. And so that process for her commission has an extensive list of exclusions for people that are ineligible to participate. So everyone that's on the screen right now can't engage. You can't be elected to any office. I mean, she has a lot of requirements. And so I would suggest going to her webpage. The Secretary of State's office, as I understand it, has not made final determinations for who's on that commission yet. And so there might still be time. I don't know her deadline for when the cutoff is for applications, but her website will give more information. If the legislature can't get the job done, it goes to her. There's an opportunity for additional citizen engagement at that time. She won't be drawing the congressional lines. So that's really important for people to know. If the legislature fails to come to agreement, and frankly, they've only done that twice in the last 100 years, but we're hopeful that, we have equal representation on the House committee. I'm hopeful that we can come to agreement. So the congressional lines, though, will go to a panel of judges to draw those lines. And so if the legislature does not agree, it goes two different routes based on the map. So congressional lines are our new sixth seat, I can't say that right, goes to a panel of judges, and our legislative maps will go to the Secretary of State. And my personal contact information, at any time, people can reach out to me, and it will ring in with my district office. That's 503-986-1439. That's technically my capital office number, but in the interim, it gets forwarded on. So that's a great way to reach me. Also by email anytime with your comments, questions, concerns, especially if during the hearing you have any problems with engaging or you're kicked out or anything else. It's rep.Christine Drazen, CHRISTINE. Drazen is DRAZAN at OregonLegislature.gov. That's my email. And I can get to that stuff anytime. So phone number will ring straight through to the district office, and email can reach me anytime. That's the legislative side of my life. So please do reach out, share your comments. You can also share your comments directly with me. I am a member of the redistricting committee. And so communicating with me is also communicating with the committee, and I'll make sure it gets put into the record.
No, thank you so much. I think that's great. I think this process is confusing and people don't know how it works or how to engage. And so I just want to thank you again for coming and sharing that with us, because I think it helps us all reach more people. So I appreciate your time and your engagement. It means a lot to all of us.
Yep. Please holler if you guys have any questions or concerns.
All right. Representative Drazen, thank you very much for being here this evening and giving us that rundown, and we will get the information out.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, everybody. Mayor.
Have a great evening. Okay, next on our agenda this evening is an update from Canby Fire Chief Davis regarding all things fire related. Chief Davis, it's yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and City Council. I first of all would like to thank Melissa. She's always been stellar as far as helping us out and getting some overheads that you'll see tonight. So thank you again, Melissa, and thank you, Scott Archer, for inviting us to do an update to the City Council tonight. Lots of things happening at the fire district. Also with me, by the way, is both Division Chiefs Matt English and Matt Dale, and they'll be part of this update as well. First of all, the Northside Fire Station. People ask a lot of questions about that. And how are we doing with the Northside Fire Station? Well, we had submitted for our permit from the Clackamas County Building Department. We received our pre-engineered building, which I always thought was pretty straightforward. However, we have some new people at the County Building Department, maybe, and came out with a whole list of items that we had to provide them with additional information. We also learned that we had to have our architect talk with the building department directly rather than us being able to talk to the building official who's reviewing our plans. And so we had to find time for our architect to be able to talk to the building official. So anyway, it's been on a little bit of delay down at the county building department. But we're working through that. Everything's been submitted to the building department, and we're waiting to hear back from them. We have on contract Emmerich as a general contractor. They're the ones that did the remodel here at the main fire station. We hope to, as soon as we receive that building permit, we're anxious to break ground, and we will inform the fire board as well as the city council when we're ready to break ground so that you can come down for that day. Other items, part of the bond was to finish ordering one more engine, one more water tanker, and one more medic unit. Those have all been ordered and are en route. The main fire station at 221 South Pine is completed. The remodel is completed. We are doing some minor touch-up items on our emergency generator power, which we learned in the ice storm was not done right. And so we had to get some plugs added so that we could operate. It was thankful, the lessons we learned from the ice storm anyway, that we learned the mistakes that were made on our emergency power. We also purchased a ladder truck, which is in service here at the main fire station, 100-foot ladder truck. That is in service, which will continue to help our ISO Insurance Standards Office grading to maintain our 2 within the city that we earned about 5 years ago. So we're very pleased to announce that we are within budget and we have completed the items that we told the voters that we would do. COVID, of course, that's a hot topic for everybody as we speak, and it's on the news every night. Healthcare workers were given a temporary administrative order from the governor's office, page 38, 2021. And it basically requires healthcare workers to be vaccinated or provide the appropriate exemptions. Canby Fire will abide by the law. But I have been approached by people asking my stance in regards to the vaccines moving forward. So I wrote out a statement after long consideration that I'd like to go over with the city council as well as the viewers that are listening tonight. That is that as the fire chief of the fire district and a veteran of the United States Air Force, I was sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States as a firefighter to serve and protect and to uphold the laws of the United States and the state of Oregon, which we plan to do with the administrative order from the governor. As a first responder to people that have contracted COVID-19 and the Delta virus, we respond to those people on a daily basis. When COVID did come out, Canby firefighters did respond before we had the vaccine. I personally responded along with my firefighters. And I can tell you, every call we went out on, we didn't know if we were going to be contracting the COVID virus. So when the vaccine became available, retired Chief Brett Smith and myself were the first in line to receive the vaccine. 2 weeks from our second vaccine, it was a relief to me and to my family so that we could respond out and feel like we had some protection against the coronavirus. For the firefighters, healthcare nurses, and doctors at hospitals, I thank them for day in and day out and the stressors that those doctors and nurses and healthcare workers at the hospital are going through day in and day out. Reality today, 3 months ago, hospitals were already exceptionally busy. Firefighters have to respond out, and when they get to an emergency, we're given divert, which means the hospital is full. Could not take patients. We then call into OHSU and they tell us where we're going to take a patient to a hospital that is already full. This is caused by the lack of nurses, ED rooms to accommodate the growth in the area. I personally transported a patient to an ED, to emergency room, and had to wait 50 minutes in the foyer with a patient from a car accident. The person that suffers is the patient. This was happening without COVID positive cases or the Delta virus. And we are transporting Delta virus patients on a daily basis. What's happening? That means that the ICUs are filled up and they're running out of staff. They're running out of ventilators, and COVID patients will have to eventually take beds in emergency rooms. That means that there will be much longer waits day-to-day for day-to-day emergencies and serious emergencies. Hospitals are seeing a significant increase of younger patients brought on by the Delta virus. The people that have not been vaccinated are seeing significant COVID-related health symptoms. The fire district will provide a podcast on our Facebook site from Dr. Chris Collins III, who is an emergency room worker as well as a fire department physician in Texas, with information that may be helpful for people that are considering receiving or not receiving the COVID vaccine. All we ask is please do the research on the vaccine. As a veteran, I do respect the rights to decide for themselves. This can be a problem that all of us in Canby and in the area can unite on to figure out. But we must figure this out because the hospitals are full. Today, we learned that OHSU's ICU unit is at 106% capacity. So the only choice is to either find a hospital that has a ventilator or to start putting patients in the emergency rooms. So that is, not good news, but I would hope that we can all work together to figure this out. Anyway, the next item on the agenda, unless you have any questions about COVID. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chief. I just want to clarify, because thank you for all that information, but you had said that you respect the individual's rights to choose. You would encourage everyone to do their research. But then also you will be following the governor's mandate. So are you giving the personnel of the fire department and respecting their right to choose, or are you mandating for the workers at the...
The governor's order requires to either get the vaccine or do an exemption for religious beliefs or for a medical exemption.
Okay, so you're honoring the exemptions if your firefighters choose to go that route.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and that's by the law. Okay, the next item on the agenda is, yes.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate what you said. I want to thank you. You've continued to be an exceptional leader in our community. And I know this is a really divisive subject, but I also know that the vaccine has saved lives. And I appreciate that, though it's a difficult and controversial situation, I appreciate that you've been a leader in sharing your own story and demonstrating that to the public. I appreciate that. And I know that's challenging. And probably not everyone, everyone has an opinion, but I just appreciate that you did that. And so I also want to say that I know that you work tirelessly for public safety, and you're constantly, what you were talking about with the North Side Station, your continuous work for public safety and also being a good steward of your tax money is really special. And I just really appreciate your leadership. So thank you for sharing with us that information. I know you have more to say, but on those two topics, I just really appreciate you, and I appreciate your staff. And thank you for caring. Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's these guys, it's the staff as well as the firefighters that make it happen. So, but thank you for the comments. A few things. The car show was outstanding. Thank you to Frank Cutsforth and his team for those that had the opportunity to attend the car show. I know I was checking cars in at the gate, so I had firsthand view of all the cars that got to come through the gate, but it was a total success. And thank you to the city for closing down the street for a few hours to allow us to get the cars in. People may have seen the big plumes out towards Molalla this last couple weekends, and the phones light up every time that happens, and rightfully so. Everybody remembers September 7th and 8th of last year with the windstorm and the serious wildland fires. So rightfully so, people are concerned. So what I thought I would do is just give you a quick update, and Melissa's going to help me out here a little bit. But Melissa, if you could put up the Bull Mountain Complex fire outline that I sent you. Yeah, that works. And I apologize if it's a little, thanks, Melissa. And anyway, the Bull Mountain Complex fire is up in the Mount Hood corridor. It crosses two county lines. It started in Marion County and is now a little bit into Clackamas County. These are the divisions. We have a Type 2 Forest Service team on this fire. We attend their meetings 3 times a week, most of the time by Zoom. I have been up to the site myself, and I can tell you that I'm very, very happy with the progress that the Forest Service team is making on this particular fire. The only level evacuations that we currently have are for Breitenbush towards Detroit. And in between Detroit and Breitenbush is the scarred out area that has already burned. And so not overly concerned. However, the people in Breitenbush and Detroit and that area are probably very concerned, as this fire is only 8 miles from them. As far as Camby is concerned, this fire is about 20 to 25 miles from Camby, about 20 miles, road miles, to Molalla. If the fire would, if we had a significant east wind event, which is not forecasted, the fire would drive down the Molalla River Basin and come into the far end of Molalla. The good news is we're working with emergency management on this fire. We've tied together with Marion County Emergency Management, as well as a great job by Clackamas County Emergency Management. And we are tracking this fire, and we also have preset designated evacuation zones set up this year, unlike last year, where it went to an immediate level 3 evacuation, and people said, what does that mean, right? And so we have also set up, number one would be encourage people to sign up for Everbridge, and you can do that through Clackamas County Emergency Management. What that does is it pings your phone, your cell phone, and or your email address, or your landline phone to give you updated notices for the level 1, level 2, and level 3. The other part is on the district Facebook site, we do have the Ready, Set, Go. The green being be ready, be prepared, monitor, pack your stuff, be ready, and stay tuned to what's going on. Level 2 means be set. In other words, have your stuff ready to go in a moment's notice. And level 3 is leave immediately. As you recall, last year when Camby was put into a level 3 or a level 2, I came off the fire lines, and instantly people approached me and said, should we leave? And I said, well, number one is have faith in the Canby Fire Department, because we have a lot of water and we have a lot of fire trucks in town, and I feel fairly safe that fire is not coming into Canby, and if it does, I will let people know. But if it does look like that in level 3, I encourage people at level 2 that if you can institute leaving to a family's house, by then smoke is bad, the environment's bad, go ahead and leave at level 2. But level 3 means get out immediately. As you see on the news tonight and the last couple nights, the big fire down in Tahoe, those people are living that as we speak. But I thought that would be helpful, since this fire event took place 1 year ago, almost to the day, but that don't be overly concerned about that big plume of smoke. It's way up in the mountains. So that concludes my report. I'm going to now turn it over to Chief Dale.
Chief Davis asked me to describe how the impact of hospital capacities affects Canby. And what our firefighters do in those situations. So the diversion system that the chief spoke about, it's in place year round, and we've had it here for decades, and it's usually comes on, and a hospital might fill up here or there around the region throughout the year based on normal usage. Usually we'll see it more often in the fall during normal flu season. And that system exists so that we have we can facilitate a continuum of care, and we don't take a patient that can't get care to a hospital that's full and can't render care. And instead it diverts ambulances throughout our region to a hospital that has more capacity to provide that continuum of care. Right now, as the chief said, we are on in a position in our region that we have that on every single day. Every once in a while, hospitals turn green, and then they get filled back up with ambulances and turn red again. That causes our ambulances in Canby to be diverted to further away hospitals. That increases the amount of time that those hospitals are unavailable in Canby. It in turn increases the amount of time our fire truck might spend on scene waiting for an ambulance. It impacts urgent care, such as acute strokes, chest pains that might be myocardial infarctions, and other medical emergencies by delaying their care and transport. It causes a disparity of care throughout our healthcare system, where the most ill and acutely sick or injured patients might have a delay in care that could come from lack of access to a cath lab for cardiac work. So this is a big deal. It's a big deal for Canby and the rest of the region. The next topic is a part of the bond that the chief spoke about, and that is the cardiac monitors. Those were due for replacement in the bond, and we have purchased those. They are here at the fire station, and we are connecting them up to the internet. And we'll be training with them within the next couple of weeks, and they will be out live helping paramedics and EMTs care for Canby's patients. Those heart monitors do more than just monitor cardiac rhythms. They have the capability to defibrillate, do cardiac pacing, cardioversion, monitor exhaled carbon dioxide, read oxygen in the blood, and carbon monoxide monitoring, which is new for us in our monitors, as well as blood pressure monitoring. Lastly, those same monitors, part of being connected to the internet, will transmit cardiac 12 leads to the hospitals to speed up the care of persons that are experiencing heart attacks. And then the last thing is Clackamas County EMS. All agencies throughout Clackamas County, and that's all agencies including Hoodland, down to Canby, Lake Oswego, down to Colton, and everywhere in between, have been working together for the last almost 24 months, fighting our way through ice storms and fire and the pandemic and all of those things that require our attention to continue with our EMS initiatives throughout the county. The biggest one is an ambulance service update impacting the Clackamas ASA, which is staffed by American Medical Response, and it covers the majority of the Canby, excluding Canby and Malala, who run our own ambulances. Part of that strategic plan update has initiatives that we've already put into place, and that is the same heart monitors, which I just spoke about, having the same medical kits, which we have rolled out now across all agencies, and the same patient care charting, electronic charting system. Those things are very important for all of us because as we get busier and busier, our agencies work across district lines more and more. And it might seem like a small thing until you have a paramedic from one agency working alongside a paramedic from another agency. And if you can't find the equipment If you can't record the information or operate that very important heart monitor in a time that makes a difference for that patient, we've slowed down the whole process. So instead, by taking all these actions, we've actually sped up and are speeding up the continuum of care at the patient's side. So we get there quick, we render continuous care and get them to the hospital under a doctor's care. That is EMS.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We'd also like to invite everybody to the September 11th memorial ceremony that we're going to have, which this year is on a Saturday. It'll start at 8 a.m. We have the street closed down. We'll have the station ready to have everybody show up. The mayor is going to speak there. Chief Tro and National Guard will also be here. And Representative Drazen will also be speaking. So we're also going to open up the Peace Garden capsule that's been over at the Ackerman School for the past 20 years. We've been working with the capsule committee, getting things lined out with them. So we will have the capsule here at the station. And when we run through the ceremony at about 9:50 or so, we'll start opening up that capsule also. And it's going to be quite the event. And then that capsule content will be on display here at the station, at the public library, and probably through the schools for about a year before the committee takes everything and puts it back in the capsule and reburies it for another 20 years. So we'll have to mark that on our calendar too. That's going to be a great event. Wanted to give you guys an update on the commercial project plans that we've been reviewing for access, water supply, and fire operations. We've been doing very well with the city, with Canby Utility and the engineers that are coming in the planning department for buildings. I'll give you some examples. Caruso Produce, 89,000 square feet. Stanton Furniture, 167,000. Active Water Sports, second building they're coming up with, 12,000 square. Commercial Produce building, 47,000. Dragonberry Produce, the second building they're going to be putting in, 30,000 square feet. Old Mac Warehouse, one of the ones that we're kind of just watching right now, 17 and a half. Canby South Project, 535,000 square feet. Columbia Distributing, remember that was 500,000 square feet. That's 1,000 feet long, right? Those are big buildings for us to be working with and commenting on, but we've been doing very well. Everybody's been fantastic to work with. We've all been putting our heads together, and between COVID, Zoom, going out on site, we're getting all that done. We wanted to update you on our neighborhood emergency preparedness teams. Tomorrow, we're going to have a meeting with 5 different unit leaders that will be here in Canby. So we're going to split Canby up into northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast sections. And we've got 4 individuals that will be taking care of disaster management for us for NERT. We also have a 5th gentleman that will be taking care of the city of Barlow, because we don't want to forget them, because they're all in our fire district also, and we can work with each other on resources. So we'll be looking at community contacts for resources, disaster planning, emergency communications, and a lot of training coming up. We'll also be doing this with the industrial area. We started that before COVID. We had like 45 different reps from the industrial groups here at the station. We had 2 meetings started and COVID hit. And so we're just finally getting things back to being ramped up for the industrial side. I wanted to update you on the intern program that Canby Fire. We have 6 interns, and we have 2 interns per shift, because we run 3 shifts. And these interns are college students, and they ride with us as firefighters or as EMTs, and some of them work up to driving the medic units and other equipment. So they're doing everything from hose work to CPR to EMS and traffic, and answering the phones and doing everything a firefighter does every day, brake checks and all that. 3 of those interns that we have actually live down at Station 365. They're called a resident intern, and they live there at the station full time, and they're up here on shift during their shift days. And then the other 3 interns are just shift only. That's what we have the availability for right now. And we also now have 2 new volunteers that we just brought on 4 weeks ago. We run a 17-week multi-jurisdictional academy. And like I said, they're in their 4th week right now, so they'll be doing their online training, which lasts weekly assignments. And then they'll do Wednesdays and Saturdays where they do manipulative on the drill ground, throwing ladders, pulling hose, live fire training, everything else for them to get their DPSST accreditation so they can become like a firefighter 1 and other levels of firefighter capability. They're quite an asset. The volunteers are quite an asset to our community. You know, the bell rings, the pager goes off, they leave their house, they come to the station, they get on rigs, they go out in your community, take care of you, and you wouldn't know them any different from one of us on scene, depending on how we're dressed or what we're doing for the most part. So we really appreciate the interns and the volunteers also. So if you have any questions, please reach out and we can answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions by the counselors? Mayor? Greg?
Thanks, Jim. Excellent report. Makes me appreciate all of the moving parts that you've got going on there with the fire district. And after the recent brush fires, boy, howdy, is that extra water tanker going to be welcome. Hey, I just had a neighbor ask me the other day on whether he can fire up his backyard fire pit yet.
So we're still running extreme and red flag right now. If he calls the burn line number, as soon as we can, that 266-1195 number, that'll be the telltale. But he can always call and talk to us too, and we'll give him the most current information on what we know also.
But right now, we're still in the same situation that we've been for all of summer.
Yes. Correct. Yep.
Thanks.
Sean, did you have a question?
I actually had the same question as Greg. Somebody asked me the other day about the backyard fires, and I said, you know what, I'll find out on Wednesday. So thanks for that answer. But while I have you guys, I'll just say great job, great presentation, and I'm always thankful for you guys. I always see you guys out there. You guys are always working hard, and thank you so much for keeping our community safe and for everything that you guys do. So really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Chief and the Mats, thank you so much for coming tonight and getting us caught up on what's been going on. So, yeah, definitely a lot of pieces from last year to be able to roll forward this year in preparation of just in case. You know, you guys run those drills in hopes of never having to use them, and we appreciate you all very, very much. So thank you for doing what you do for our community.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the July 21st, 2021 regular city council meeting and the appointments of, forgive me if I mess up names, Lois Brooks, Rick Mayer, and Luke Vitter to the Canby Public Library Board, with Lois Brooks appointed to a term expiring June 30th, 2022, and Rick Mayer for a term expiring June 30th, 2025, and Luke Vitter's term to expire upon his graduation.
I will second.
Okay, motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Verwig to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the July 21st, 2021 regular city council meeting and the appointments of Lois Brooks, Rick Mayer, and Luke Viter to the Canby Public Library Board, with Lois Brooks appointed to a term expiring June 30th, 2022, and Rick Mayer for a term expiring June 30th, 2025, and Luke Viters to a term expiring upon his graduation. Any discussion or comment? Okay, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, that carries 6-0. Next on the agenda this evening is a discussion regarding the strategic investment zone. So this is kind of a long carryover item that was.
Do we not have, do I have the wrong meeting? I have the wrong meeting minutes, sorry.
So tonight's discussion, regarding the strategic investment zone, really kind of more of a discussion amongst us to determine if, what information we want from city staff or we may need from city staff about the strategic investment zone. I know we had tremendous amount of conversation around the strategic investment zone with the building or groundbreaking and building of Columbia distribution. So I guess it's a conversation for us to, I think, do what with this. And so this was something that Councilor Spoon had brought forward and wanted to see a discussion on. And so I think I'll open it up to Councilor Spoon to expand on what it is that she was wanting to achieve with this conversation.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So it's been, nearly a year and a half, almost 2 years since we first addressed the SIZ as a council. I think it took all of us by surprise back then. But we're facing continued development in our industrial park. And I have some serious concerns about the impact on our community. And so among those are that I know that the SIZ is a statewide program, but I think there are two tactics we could potentially take. So there's some history here for people that weren't on city council at the time. I think we had a work session on it. Maybe it might be recorded. It was in the library. I don't know if you remember that, Brian, when we had the county come and talk. And then at some point we had someone from the state come and talk to us, and that was over Zoom. But a couple of areas of concern for me are that the strategic investment zone, largely as a state law, seemed to be a recessionary law that was intended to spur development and during the recession when it was hard to compete. It's been as far as I know, it's been enacted for almost 20 years now, if not more, but we are no longer in a recessionary economy. So we have a situation now where we have land in Canby that's cheaper than land in our neighboring areas. And these businesses come in and they get a tax break, a substantial tax break, but they still create wear and tear, not only on our infrastructure, but also that money, because they aren't paying full taxes, impacts our fire district, right, as well. So the way I see it, there are two strategies we could take with this. One is to renegotiate with the county to pull out of what appears to me, from my understanding, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, to basically almost be like a fast pass, more streamlined way through it where they don't have to meet all these different requirements and they don't have to do quite as much. So the city of Canby has that agreement with the county where that exists. The other strategy, what I would really like to pursue, is directing city staff to actually advocate on behalf of the city with the state and with maybe Representative Drazen and Senator Kennemer to kind of sunset the SIZ. And this is why, because we're not in a recession anymore the way we were when it was created. So it had this tax break was invented and then it had no end date. It's just kind of in perpetuity. But also what we're ending up with is distribution centers, not manufacturing centers. So we end up with buildings that are expensive, but we aren't getting the tax benefit of all of the equipment. We aren't getting the job benefit of local residents getting those jobs, because with distribution centers, they often live way outside of the area. They come in, like, it's just a different business model. And also with distribution centers, we're not really competing with other states for the development. A distribution center has to be, by its nature, close to where it's trying to deliver. So we're not competing with Arizona for a distribution center the way we might for a manufacturing facility. The impact on Camby is that we're giving enormous multi-million-dollar tax breaks to these large corporations who have no history here, have no intention of hiring local people, and their wear and tear on our infrastructure is excessive because they basically drive in and drive out and do little else. So the road maintenance is more expensive, and I just want to have a conversation about how we can advocate for our city, because what I don't want is our industrial park full of distribution centers that have a lot of traffic and few jobs, and we're giving them giant tax breaks despite the fact that they're costing our taxpayers exorbitant amounts of money. So I just want to have a conversation about how we can best advocate for our citizens, because I will not vote for any SIZ moving forward for a giant corporation that's a distribution center for sure. Like, I'm tired of it. We said we were going to reopen this almost 2 years ago now. And it's time we have this conversation about how we advocate for our citizens. And at the very least, what I would like to do is direct staff to open a conversation with the state and with our legislators and our representatives about how we save Canby, because we're getting distribution center after distribution center, and they're all now coming for tax breaks, and there's nothing we can really do about it. But our citizens deserve better. So that's the conversation I wanted to have, is what everyone else's thoughts were on directing staff and maybe talking about renegotiating with the county to get out of the streamline process.
Okay. Comments? Councilor Parker?
Now, let me defer to Council President Hensley first. We had a conversation about this today.
Okay.
I did have a hand up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilor Parker. I, for one, was one of the ones during the last discussion about this that had to begrudgingly vote for the SIZ for the distribution center that went in, just because we'd found out kind of what I felt was late in the game, that it was being used as a carrot to bring that company here. And so I felt like in good faith, we had to follow through. Although I'm not for the SIZ, and I said back then that I wanted to crack this open and look at it again. And I particularly think that Canby is attractive enough to attract business here. We don't need to incentivize. So I really would like to open this back up and see if there's a way that we can find a sunset and get out of this SIZ business.
Okay. Councilor Parker?
Yeah, I did kind of a deep dive on this last time we faced this. And in fact, when this measure was passed, according to the legislative history on it, there wasn't a lot of work put in on this by the legislature. It was one of a series of packages that they were throwing economic recovery packages out. And just to show you how sloppy the legislation was written, is that they, as has been pointed out, they wrote a anti-recessionary bill with no end date or no requirements. It didn't say, for example, if unemployment gets above 7% or some indicator at all. But we're in our 5th month of economic expansion, and we're still using a 2-decade-old anti-recessionary thing. So my suggestion would be to have staff research what we could do to get out of the Clackamas County agreement, the fast track. I think of the two, that's the lower hanging fruit. And then secondly, see if there's consensus on the council to seek a legislative remedy for it. That probably to put a trigger in, if anything, that this sort of thing will exist when it's needed. But it just seems crazy to be giving tax breaks during a time of economic expansion. And Council President Hensley is absolutely right. Camby is demure and lovely, and she ought to play a little hard to get. And we don't have to give tax breaks to move here.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Varwig?
Yeah, thank you. No, I definitely think we need to have a conversation about it. I'm not a huge fan of anything in perpetuity. I think there always needs to be checks and balances. And when things come that we don't have to give away, why give it away? And so I definitely think that we need to have the conversation. What I don't want to do is get ourselves in a position of where we have used a tool to attract a business and then, or development, and then take it away. And so I'd like to start having the conversation. Obviously, we're having this conversation because there's a big development potentially coming. I'd like to know, maybe from city staff, what has been promised with that development, if the SIZ has been a tool used in order to bring another big development in. I don't want to take that away from them if we've used that as a tool, or as Council President Hensley said, as a carrot to draw them in. But I definitely think we need to have the conversation about what does the future of this SIZ look like in Canby, because I don't think that it needs to be a tool in our toolbox any longer.
Okay. Other comments? Councilor Bangs?
Thank you. I would just add, in the first place, I agree with all four of those sentiments. And I've never been a huge fan of those type of programs. But Canby has a labor shortage right now, not a job shortage. And this perpetuation just exacerbates that problem. So I'm definitely in favor of removing the SIZ.
Scott, while Jordan's giving his comments, if you wouldn't mind coming to the table there, I'd appreciate it. Councilor Tibbles?
Just so that we can all know where everyone stands on this, I think that it would be actually we'd be forced stewards on this as a city council to not look at this option and reassess as economic times have changed. That doesn't necessarily mean that, as I'm learning about this issue more and more, and I wasn't obviously around when it came to be, there may be some levers that, or some things that we're not willing to sacrifice by giving that up. And I would love to know what those pros and cons are. I think by not diving into that, not directing staff to do that, we can never make the best informed decision. But I agree with the points of the other counselors. I think that there is absolutely no harm in finding that information out.
So what I'm hearing here, and please let me know if I've left anything out, a conversation on the history of the SIZ a little bit for background purposes. Number one. Number two, I like the conversation of the pros and cons of the SIZ to date. I know that that's not been widely used in Clackamas County, I don't believe. I think Columbia was one of the, I think there's only been a couple, and Columbia being one of them. But maybe the history of that. And then, and thirdly, part of number two being not just pros and cons, but how does that get used as an economic development tool for us as a city in its current state? But then if it goes away, what does that do? And then I also heard then a conversation about maybe perhaps from Joe, what's the legal tie to this that we have, and is it even possible to unravel that from that perspective, and then from there determine on what next steps might be? Am I leaving anything out in that piece, Councilor Spoon?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify now that other people have made comments, and maybe I could have been more clear. I think that maybe one of the nuances we could have staff advocate for is that, to me, there's a difference between having a distribution center and a manufacturing facility. And I think that there's room legislatively to work with our representatives for the sake of Canby and the people that live here, that maybe if we can just remove distribution centers from the SIZ, I'm more comfortable with that. At least a manufacturing center provides jobs and creates product, and it doesn't have the same strain on our infrastructure. So I'm open to multiple solutions. But what I don't like to see is distribution centers coming in, not creating jobs, getting the tax break, and then we have to back them up by continuously repairing the road. So I think there are multiple options here for us. I just would love for city staff to look into it and for us to have further conversation about how we can advocate for our community, because I don't think we need businesses so badly that we have to give away 50% of their tax revenue to make them. The whole point of the URA and of the industrial park was to create tax revenue. And now we're at a point where we're just giving that tax revenue away. And everything for the city of Canby should be a win-win. So I think it is nuanced, and I think we need to have more conversations. I just wanted to clarify that so I have an issue with the tax break in general, but my biggest issue is its use for distribution centers. And I would love if there's a way for us to advocate or talk about what that might look like, because I think there's room to negotiate with the state on maybe a legislative change. And I think our citizens expect that of us. So to me, I just wanted everyone to know I see a slight difference. I don't like it either way, but at the very least, I don't want distribution centers to be covered by it. So.
Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question. Councilor Parker and I talked about this morning, and I wasn't clear. When we had the initial CPIP start, the industrial park, there was a jobs per acre requirement. Did we make that go away, or are we just ignoring it?
Perhaps staff could do some research on that too.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. I wasn't aware of that because I wasn't on council at the time. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Actually, this is Jason, if you don't mind me cutting in.
Well, kind of, sir, yes.
I believe that the job requirement per acre was based on the tax credit they get from the city.
I'm wondering if maybe staff can look into that. I don't recall us ever repealing that jobs per acre requirement. I'm wondering if we're just ignoring it for these distribution centers that are coming in. Maybe I missed a memo, but I was just kind of curious on where we went with that.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Your conversation was helpful, and I guess I was just I think this is where the conversation is already going probably, but I was going to suggest that we work on scheduling this for a work session, give the staff a little bit of time to do some research on some of your questions and points. We've got all of your issues here. And then, yes, we'll look into Council President Hensley, your question about the jobs per acre requirement. We'll bring back some of that information as well. But yes, I think I'm understanding the conversation that you want to have, and we'll work on bringing this back, and then I'll work with the mayor to figure out when we want to put this on a work session. Is that what you're asking for, Council?
That seems to be the gist. Do we leave anything out on the laundry list of things for staff to try to put together?
No, that was actually my original intent, was maybe a work session, especially because a couple of counselors weren't here when the last SIZ happened. And I think there's room for us to be better for our citizens. So I think a work session is a great next step.
Councilor Parker, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, just to give some historical perspective on this. Yes, there is a jobs requirement, and our former economic development director, Renata Mengelberg, shortly before she left, brought this to the council and said, we're facing a question of whether we're going to be able to meet this requirement. And so she said the council is going to need to know whether to repeal it or not. So that was as far as we got on that. Here's the interesting thing about that requirement, that there aren't a lot of people left from day one of the industrial park. But one of them is our former city administrator, Michael Jordan. And I was talking to him about this requirement, and he said that what's important to understand was that the industrial park was never about jobs. It was about getting high value industrial property to share the property tax burden so that homeowners didn't have to pay for it itself. And as Councilor Bangs points out, we're actually in a deficit. We don't need jobs. If we need jobs, we need high value paying jobs that are manufacturing. But even our manufacturing jobs, for example, at Shimatsu, 2 years ago, topped out at $19 for assembly. So I think we've got a 30,000 foot discussion on do we still want to give tax exemptions or not, and then also we can address the question of jobs per acre. But for me, I'd like to fill that place up with high value industrial instead of the lowest possible taxing unit, which is the distribution.
If you don't mind, I actually just got done texting with our planning director, Don Hardy, who says that currently the jobs per acre is in effect, and it's always been and continues to be enforced. So just so you know, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a discussion point during the work session about whether or not that needs to be a certain number or whether or not you want to have some flexibility in that too.
I don't actually know anything about the jobs per acre requirement. So even just briefing us on that during the work session, because that may have changed in the last 20 years, what's reasonable. I mean, our city certainly changed in the last 20 years. So a briefing on that, I think, would be a good start, and maybe it needs adjustments, but it's the first I've heard of it. So.
Cool. Yep. Understood. So, Mr. Mayor, I think from staff perspective here, this is helpful. This really outlines what you're looking for and how you want to shape this conversation. So we'll be prepared to bring information that can help you with that discussion.
Great. Council President Hensel, you had a hand up.
Well, I just wanted to make a clarification. I am for opening up the SIZ conversation and not giving tax incentives. I'm not a fan of distribution centers, but I'm also very cognizant of the fact that we don't own the dirt, so we don't get to pick what goes there. So if distribution centers are what's going to happen, that's up to the landowner to sell it to them, and that's that. And I'm not going to stand in the way of that, but I do want to have a conversation about the SIZs.
Thank you. Okay. I think staff has some direction on this to at least get us to another conversation level on the matter. Okay. Anything else on this one, folks? Okay. We'll move into mayor's business and then follow that up with councilor comments and liaison reports. I just want to give a big thank you to, and I know I'm going to leave people off the list here regarding the street party last weekend to kick off Camby's big weekend, but big thank you to community member Greg Perez. He was out there on Friday morning at 4 a.m. getting things set up. So thank you to that. I want to thank city staff. So Jamie Stickle, who jumped in with a couple of weeks out to bring the event home from that standpoint, and then our public works team who were there all day, and then after the event, cleaning up and returning the street to normal and cleaning everything up. So tremendous thank you to them. Thank you to Backstop, Oddmost Pizza, Wayward Sandwiches, FOB, Light of the World Church, and I know I'm leaving a bunch out, but a host of others to make this event possible. I will say I know that there was a dunk tank out there for a fundraiser, and I'm sure if we each lined up for a stint there that they probably would have made a huge amount of money. I know that I'm sure, Councilor Varwig and myself probably would have garnered a lot of attention to try to be dunked in the tank. So we'll have to keep that in mind for next year.
Let me just insert. They raised $704 for Fido Food Bank. There was a matching, so that's $1,408 for Fido Food Bank. I did volunteer to be dunked. Unfortunately, there's a weight limit, and so only my right leg could be dunked.
All right. Goals for next year, Councilor Garwick, for you and I. Also, let you know this weekend, the Dahlia Festival and the Basil Festival will be going on and wrapping up. So if you want something to do this weekend, please head out there. In case you didn't know, school's back and the kids are in the buildings, walking the streets, riding their bikes. So please slow down in the school zones. I would hate to see Camby's finest pull you over for not keeping our school zone safe. An update on Park and Rec. Master planning is still underway and going. If you have not been around to our parks, you'll notice that we've made some changes to the signage on almost all of our parks in Canby. So I tip my hat to the Park and Rec Board for really updating those and adding some color to those signs. C4 is tomorrow night. The crux of our conversation is a rather big conversation about transit and what we want to see in Clackamas County from our different transit providers and how best to try to work with TriMet, especially as we talk about that last mile of connection for residents to their homes. We also had great groundbreaking for Dragonberry Produce. As you heard earlier, they're adding a 30,000 square foot portion to their property and their distribution center there. Been a great community partner, and it was a great event. And last but not least, just to kind of let everyone know, as you can see, we've all returned to Zoom meetings under the governor's mandate to just regarding indoor meetings and things like that. I will be getting a message out for all of the boards and committees as well, that they will all be returning to Zoom meetings as soon as possible going forward until we hear otherwise. So just to let everyone know that that's our current status under the COVID direction from the governor's office. That is all that I have for this evening. We'll go around my screen here. Councilor Parker, you're up, sir.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate that. There was a city bike committee meeting last night, and they raised a couple of issues that I think are important for the council to think about on what happens when we go through such rapid changes of a couple city managers, interim managers. We go through a senior planner, Matilda left, we go through our planning director. One of the things that fell between the cracks was the direction for the bike committee to review all development applications that up until about a year and a half ago, they would get all of the development applications for them to review for sidewalks, accessibility, bike paths, and that sort of thing. That got discontinued. So I've been in contact with Scott, our city administrator, and also because we had a resignation of the staff liaison to the bike committee, our economic development director is temporarily filling in. So we're kind of limping along here, trying to get things together. But I've talked to Scott, and Brian, when you have a chance, he'll download to you all of that and some additional administrative issues. But I think it's important, especially for those of you that may be on the council for another 10 years, that when we go through these type of things is to be in close touch with your liaison committees on being the continuity factor. We had so many changes that one of their elements of review got dropped out. Historic Review Commission is meeting next week, and they're going to be doing a review on an official review on the proposed changes to the historic City Hall building. That's part of their ordinance requirements. And finally, did anybody else think how neat it was that we were able to switch from the police department to the fire department to Representative Drazen? When we do return to in person, the ability for us to bring people in like that, I think, is going to be tremendous. Having Representative Drazen be able to call in during a legislative session when there's a hearing or a bill that's of interest to Canby, I just think we really showed some the use of the technology. And in my discussion with Scott, there's work on substantially upgrading the technology so it'll be top notch and reduce the wear and tear on our city staff to produce these things. So that's all I had tonight. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Varwig.
Thank you very much. I don't think I could add very much to the fire report, so I won't try. Unfortunately, I was inadvertently left off of the invite for the CTV 5 meeting the other day, so I don't have a report for there either. They're still getting used to either Zoom or I don't know. They've left me off a couple of times, even though I'm trying. And then I was on a business trip for the Planning Commission, so I still need to review that. So I really don't have much tonight.
All right. Thank you, sir. Councilor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Library Advisory Board was scheduled to meet since we've had our last meeting, but had to cancel due to a lack of quorum, partly because they had a shortage of members, which we've just resolved tonight. So they're going to be thrilled. They'll be meeting next Tuesday. And yeah, as you said, Mr. Mayor, school's back in session. And today was day 3 of having kids, normal 5-period schedule at the high school, a normal full day at all the K-12 levels here at the high school. It's been a delight. The kids are, it's great to see the kids again. Last week was a teacher in service. One of my friends told me that, if ever I die suddenly, I'd like to do it during teacher in service, because the line between life and death is so narrow, then the transition would be so easy. And it's just really wonderful, I think, for all of us that we've got kids back in our rooms now. The kids seem really excited. Attendance is good. It's packed. The high school's got 130 more kids than we had 2 years ago, the last time we had a semi-normal start. Sports are also back at the high school level. It appears as though we're going to have regular seasons, not doing football in June like we did last year, and having fans. Also, I've spoken with our new superintendent. I've met him since we had our last meeting, Aaron Downs, and he seems pretty excited to work with the city. He's met with Scott, I think, twice now. Scott Archer himself made an appearance at the high school this week. I am a little miffed that he didn't come down and say hello, but I was teaching at the time. But there may be opportunities for the school district and the city to work a little more closely together. And that's about it. There's been a whole bunch of construction projects going on all around the school district. Every elementary school is getting upgraded playgrounds, ADA, like approved playground equipment. Those that have not are still getting it. The high school is getting turf practice fields installed. That's still happening. The baseball field's all torn up. Half of the practice fields are torn up. But progress is happening with that bond that we passed in the district a couple of years ago. So that this was a big summer for that. And that's it until next time.
Great. Thank you. Council President Hensley.
I have nothing to report this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. Bridging Cultures was planning on having an event a couple of weeks ago. It got canceled for extreme weather, but it's happening this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. at Waite Park. It's just a community event. There's going to be free food. So they typically do every other weekend. They do an event in the city of Canby where everyone can come and hang out with their neighbors and have free lunch. And it's been a little affected this year by weather, and they've started alternating different parks. This Saturday is Waite Park, 11:30 a.m. There's free food, a resource fair, and it's also going to be a vaccination event. It's co-sponsored by multiple organizations, including our very own Canby Kiwanis. So that's exciting. Also, I want to thank Canby Kiwanis for doing the Kitty Caper Parade. It was the first parade we've had in Canby in quite some time to kick off Fair Week. And my husband and I had the pleasure and honor of being MCs for it. But it was so exciting to see so many kids come out, so many families participate. It felt very safe. Everyone stayed appropriately socially distanced along the roadside. And it was fun to have that and to end that at the fair. So I want to thank them for doing that. And finally, Canby Area Transit. I was not able to attend the meeting last week. I had a conflict. However, I do know that there are still openings on the board. So if you are interested in participating in the Canby Area Transit Citizen Advisory Committee, we would love to have you. The application's online at the City of Canby website. And that's all.
Great. Thank you very much. Councilor Tibbles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If it's okay with you, I would like to start my report by reading the names of the 13 of our best and bravest service members who gave the ultimate sacrifice and lost their lives in Afghanistan this past week, followed by a moment of silence. We have Marines, Lance Corporal David Espinoza, Sergeant Nicole Gee, Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, Corporal Hunter Lopez, Lance Corporal Riley McCollum, Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui, Sergeant Johanny Rosario Picardo, Corporal Humberto Sanchez, Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, Corporal Dagan Page, Navy Corpsman Maxton Soviak, and Army Sergeant Ryan Noss. Thank you. My counselor comments today are brought forth with great difficulty as I am formally resigning my seat as city councilor, effective after this meeting. My family and I will be moving out of state and will unfortunately no longer be able to call Canby our home. It has been a great honor to represent the people of Canby, and I am truly thankful to the people who have supported me and entrusted me to represent them. Being a father with young children and trying to find a balance between building a career to provide and the best place to raise our children is difficult. The decision my wife and I have come to does not come easy, but we know God has given us peace that it is the right one. The memories my wife has growing up in this community most of her life, and mine as a somewhat recent transplant, has confirmed from both experiences that Canby is an amazing place, and we are proud to have called it our home. We want to thank everyone who has been a part of making those memories. As we move to our next chapter, I wanted to leave Canby with a final word of encouragement. We're living in a time with a lot of uncertainty. The concerns surrounding the pandemic and personal health choices, vaccination being forced by the state or face termination, segregation, or denials of goods and services are unsettling. No matter where you fall on this side of the argument, I hope we can all agree a healthy skepticism of government overreach is healthy for our society. Our founders knew this, and they created our Constitution to protect us from tyrannical government They knew nothing was more dangerous and a greater threat to liberty than big government. Our country and our world is changing more rapidly than ever before. One of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, said it best: those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. But the good news to all who are listening is to take heart that you were not created for this world. God created you in his own image. He loves you and wants to be the center of your life. He knows your faults, your sins, your heartbreak, and your triumphs, and he loves you despite all of it. John 3:16 tells us, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." He sent his only Son to live as a man, born of a virgin, and he lived a perfect, sinless life in order to show us the way God had intended for us to live. His Son died on the cross for our sins in our place and was resurrected from the grave 3 days later. He conquered death to show us we can experience life and eternity with him should we choose to repent and follow Jesus. That is the gospel. That is the good news. And that is my final word as Canby City Councilor. Thank you.
Jordan, thank you for your service as a city councilor. Life sometimes opens and closes doors rapidly, and sometimes the windows next to those doors that close. I really do wish you and your family the best. I think you being on the council, I think you challenged and stretched many of us on with your perspective and with where you stood on things, and I really do appreciate that. I really do wish you and your family the best in the future, and hopefully you won't become a Cowboys fan unless you already are. No.
Never. Wouldn't do it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Tibbles. Last time I get to say that, I suppose. Thank you for saying their names. Thank you for your time on this council. Oh my gosh, I knew I was going to do this. You've been a good policymaker, but you know what? You and your wife have become good friends, and I'm going to miss you. Thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you.
Councilor Varwig.
Yeah, Councilor Tibbles, Jordan. First of all, thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for saying those names, and thank you for your service to our city. Beyond working together on city council, I have cherished our friendship. It has been an honor and a privilege to get to know you and to call you a friend. I know that will continue long past this service here. And so to you and Molly and the kids, I wish you the absolute best in your next venture. I was going to say the same thing. Don't cheer for the Cowboys. I heard that if you wear a Cowboys mask, you can't catch anything. It's what I saw the other day. So, but all joking aside, it truly has been fun to get to know you and to call you a friend, and I wish you the absolute best. So thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Jordan. I really appreciate, I know that not everyone gets to see every meeting we have because some are executive session, but I have always found you to be really thoughtful and curious and trying to find the right solution, even if we need to think through it beyond our own ideologies. And I really appreciate that about you, and I always have. And we've had a couple of conversations recently that really made me feel good about our country, frankly, because I think that people that don't always see eye to eye can find common ground. And I really appreciate that about you. And I wish you and your family the best. I want nothing but the best for you. And thank you so much for your service to our country. And really, thank you for stepping up and running for office. I don't think people always realize how hard that is and what sacrifices are made when you run for office and put yourself up to be judged by your neighbors. And I appreciate that you took the time to do that and the energy to do that for our community, because I know that we will always share a love for our country and our love for this community. And so you're going to be missed. And I wish you nothing but the best. Good luck wherever you're headed.
Thanks, Sarah.
Councilor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jordan, I'm going to miss you. You and I were the new young pups on this council, and I really appreciated having you there alongside my own bewilderment in so many cases. You know, we've not always agreed, but we've certainly had our agreements, and you're a good man, and Godspeed. I hope you and Molly all the best.
Thanks, Chris.
Councilor Parker.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear this. I was just saying today that I have seen such growth and leadership potential in you. So Canby will be the lesser because you're not going to be here. But this isn't to say like you're dying, but you'll be in a better place, I think. And I think you'll be enjoying it. And yeah, I mean, you and I couldn't come from more different political positions, but I always found you to be a gentleman and kind and gentle and soft with your words. And I'm never ever going to get that rainy day that once, I think it was your wife who said, somebody should do something about all this downed trees. And you said, well, I'm somebody, and you went down there and spent the day cutting up trees. So best to you and to your family.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Joe. Now, excuse me, Council President Hensley.
All right, he fixed it. I said Joe was muted, but he fixed it.
So, Joe, we've been down this road before.
Yes.
And in terms of, not that we want to talk about replacing Jordan with Jordan here, but in terms of next steps, where do we go in terms of, because I mean, obviously the next question is, where do we go from in terms of reappointment of a new counselor to that seat?
The charter says that the majority of the council can appoint whenever there's a vacancy. And so this is a vacancy through resignation. So when you guys see fit to, probably in the past, we've advertised and let people come in and apply for, and a majority has voted for replacements in these circumstances. And then that person serves until the next general election, where then if they want to continue on, they have to run. So it won't be to finish off a full 4 years. It'll only be to finish off until the next general election.
Okay. So in terms of determining all those pieces, that's not something we necessarily do right now. We'd have to put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, well, you'll want to have, I think a chance for you guys to advertise to folks, or if you want to continue on. I mean, I guess you could choose a different process than you have in the past, but in the past you've put it out there who wants to try to apply for this, and then you've done public interviews in the past and then voted from the pool of folks that were interested.
No, I totally understand that, but I mean, in terms of, I guess from a I don't know, from a public meetings law perspective in terms of like this evening not being
This was
noticed
not announced.
Right. We don't have an announcement piece, so that would have to be at our next city council meeting, correct?
Okay, well done. Yeah, that's even a bigger first question. So sorry I didn't just address that. This was not on the agenda. So in order for you guys to actually take action on something, public meetings law wants you to go ahead and put that on the agenda. So since it wasn't, there is no decision to be made tonight.
Okay. We'll make sure that's on the next agenda to hash that out and look at dates for, application, closing of the application, and then how we want to handle interviews, either as a council meeting, special meeting, et cetera. So I'll be thinking about that, council, for our next meeting. Councilor Spoon, you have a question?
I think that pretty much answered my question. I just thought it would be appropriate. There's been a couple of appointments in the last 4 or 5 years. If we just follow the same timeline and process, makes sense to me. Yeah. But I think he answered the question I had, so.
All right.
And can I say something, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, you can.
Hey, Jordan, you were one of my bosses. I really appreciated working with you as well. I echo the sentiment that Councilor Parker says. You really shined huge in your extra dedication, basically, in your putting your money where your mouth was in the aftermath of the ice storm, where you actually just, not only went out and cut wood, but you got a whole bunch of your friends to do it. And you worked with me only because I made you sign liability waivers because you were so rearing to go and the city didn't necessarily want the liability of what you were going to do. So I really appreciated you, putting your heart out here and your energy out here. And frankly, what Councilor Banks said is when you're newer, there's a steep learning curve, and you tackled that, and so has Councilor Banks, and taken on the training at the same time that you're trying to take on a whole bunch of stuff. And you guys are impressive people, and I really am thankful that you were one of my bosses for a while. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, and that announcement, we still have some things to finish up. So we're going to move into city administrator business and staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have several things I'm going to clip through very quickly. I did not have this on my list, but I've added at the top of my list. I want to add to all of the other comments, and many of the things I wanted to say have been said, so I won't repeat them. But Councilor Tibbles, Jordan, I also want to thank you for your time, your service to our community and to our country. You do have a true heart for service. It's apparent, and so I'm sure you'll take that with you. And I wish you and your family the best in your next move and your next venture, and for everything that lies ahead. So thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So I'll just run through a few items here, if I may. We didn't have a meeting last time, so I've been saving over some items, and we've got some things coming up, and I just want to make some important announcements here, if I may. First, the mayor actually spoke to the Big Night Out event last Friday, but I just want to echo the comments, the thank yous to those that were involved in putting on such a great event. It was my first of that event, and I look forward to many more in the future. But I thought it was a tremendous event, and I think our community was it shows that we're really hungry for community gatherings and things of this nature that we haven't been able to do for the last year and a half or so. And so tremendous event. Thank you to all of the people that were involved. Greg Perez, our number one volunteer on that event, all of our businesses and organizations and sponsors, our staff, Jamie Stickle, and with Calvin LeSueur's resignation not too long before the event was taking place, and that position normally would be very involved in doing a lot of that legwork. Jamie stepped in and really took charge and did a fantastic job. And then our public works and our parks teams, everybody that was involved, it was awesome to see all that. So great job and kudos to everybody. Thank you. Next is I want to announce that our police department will be holding its first annual Grill and Chill event. This is taking place on September 7th from 5 to 8 p.m. It will be held at our police department building at 1175 Northwest 3rd. There will be lots of great things going on. This is a thank you from our police department to our community for the great support that they've received for so many years. There will be free hot dogs, Kona shaved ice, lots of demos like K9 and SWAT and drones, meeting our police staff, lots of games and a photo booth and just all kinds of fun things. So we encourage everybody to come out. Again, September 7th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the police department. Please, everybody, come on out and enjoy that. I want to let you know that we will be doing our annual closure of our pool facility, our Canby Swim Center. We do an annual maintenance closure, and this year it will be from August 29th to September 12th. So that means it's already been closed for a couple of days or so. We do a lot of the kind of major maintenance stuff that we can't do when the facility is open. We drain the pool, we clean it, we do some painting, we do some other items, and then when we reopen, it's kind of refreshed and ready to go for the rest of the year. An update, just a quick update on our downtown project, our quiet zone and our arch. We are very close to work beginning on the ground. We had awarded a contract to our contractors some time ago, and then we had to do the final permitting with the railroad, and unfortunately it took a bit longer than expected, and because of that we had to sort of renegotiate the start date with the contractor and kind of refit them into our timeline and their work schedule. But we have done that, and the start date is now going to be September 13th. So on that date and moving forward, we'll see a lot of work going on downtown at the 3 railroad crossings, as well as work beginning for the installation of the new arch, which will be on Elm Street. And that will, we anticipate the completion of that now to be in March, and that'll be a bit weather dependent as we see how our weather is over the late fall and winter, but we can look forward to that project being completed. Our Public Works Department did a number of summer street maintenance paving projects. We paved portions of 6 streets this year using our street maintenance money. And we did about 1.5 miles of street repaving or paving. Those new roads, I'm sure you've seen some of those or maybe all of those. They look great. We are getting ready to begin construction at on our new pickleball courts at Maple Street Park. That will actually begin work next week, and I believe we anticipate finishing that project later in this calendar year. So we'll have new pickleball courts coming in the months ahead here. I wanted to mention we've talked about this subject before, but the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA, which is was the federal legislation that basically directed funding to cities for use that is supposed to be tied to relief from COVID and COVID-related issues. There are a number of things that this can be used for, and we're still actually sorting out exactly how that can and cannot be used. But the city of Canby, and this is basically just a direct allocation that we are receiving based on population. we received our first installment very recently, about a week ago or so, of $1.9 million. So that is in our account. We are not currently spending that money, and we will not until we have a conversation with council about that. We anticipate receiving a similar amount again at around the same time next year. So this is being paid out in 2 installments over the course of a couple of years. Cities have until about, I believe it's 2024 to expend that money for projects or for uses that are tied to the defined uses, which as I said, we're still kind of sorting out and fine tuning that. But I wanted the council to know that funding has been received. The first of 2 payments have been received. And we will be coming back to you to have some conversation around how we would like to expend that money and put that money back into our city and our community. Then the last thing I want to mention, and then Joe's got a couple of other quick announcements for you related to some meetings, but the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The mayor alluded to this or spoke to it earlier. Just as an update, a little bit, just kind of expanding on what the mayor said, but as you know, the master plan is well underway and has been going. We've been doing some significant work on that. So far to date, we have hosted a number of public engagement activities. We did that the last week in July. We did stakeholder group meetings. We did larger focus groups. We had a public forum that was well attended. We have done, the consultant, Greenplay, has done some parks inventory work. They are creating an atlas which will be reviewed by staff and will essentially be a comprehensive inventory for us to use in this master plan process. There will be a public survey that is coming soon. That is our next really big kind of piece of this and this is a big part of our public input process. So there are 2 parts to our public surveying that will help guide the information we receive from our community. One is a random sampling of city residents that will be a statistically valid survey. So they need to reach a certain number of guaranteed people responding to this randomly distributed survey. And that is the statistically valid survey. And then there will also be an open, basically an open survey that will go live on the web that will be for anybody in the community to provide input for. So I know earlier Mr. Padden was providing some thoughts about the Parks Master Plan and some things we might want to think about. That's a great example of, I would suggest that anybody with that type of feedback participate in this open public survey that we'll be doing. And that will be live later in September. We will do announcements and we'll do publicizing of that event. But it will be live for about a week. And right now we're looking at September 24th to 30th that will take place. And that's approximate. We're fine tuning that, but we'll make some final announcements and we'll advertise that widely. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board continues to work on the process as the steering committee. They're receiving information and updates regularly from Greenplay, the consultant, and so there's still work ahead. But the next big round of public input is through this surveying process that we will encourage people to participate in. Any questions about any of that? It's like there might be a couple of questions.
Yeah, there's a couple there. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not a question. I just wanted to add on to Scott's announcement about the Grill and Chill that isn't on the flyer yet. I just wanted to add that the Brian Haynes Band will be playing at 6:30 during that event.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Barwig.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. During your comments about the quiet zone and the arch. I just wanted to either clarify or maybe I misheard you. I thought you said the arch was going to be Elm Street, and I think that's going to be at Grant Street. Is that not correct? Okay, I just want to make sure. If we moved it and I didn't realize it or something, but just want to make sure people know it's it.
You passed the test, Councilor Barber. If anybody was paying. I wanted to see if you all actually listened during my administrator's reports. I'm kidding. No.
All right. I win. What's the prize?
I don't know yet. We'll figure it out.
All right. Perfect.
I did misspeak, and I appreciate that.
No worries. Thank you.
I'm just glad we're finally going to see that thing occur. As we've all discussed over the last, 3-4 years, there's a couple agencies that sometimes we work with as a city council that thrive on delay and not making a decision. So you'll have to excuse me if I will, when I say I'll believe it when I see it for the 13th. But
Mr. Mayor, I thought maybe we could just open the time capsule at the ribbon cutting.
Well,
I'm excited to see it move forward. Those other agencies have made it really difficult, and I'm so excited it's going to happen. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Councilor Bangs.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on Scott's comments about the pickleball courts, the high school tennis courts, being apparently the only public tennis courts in town now, have been unlocked and are available for the public. I meant to announce that earlier. It was in my notes, but I never looked at them. But they had been locked, and now they're unlocked. So if you want to go play tennis, just bring your racket and your balls, and you can walk right in. Please don't vandalize it.
Perfect. Councilor Barwick, did you have something else?
I did, and you reminded me when you said other agencies. Scott, we had talked some time ago about our $48,000 a year in perpetuity and asking if we were going to see any added maintenance or what we can hold them accountable to with that. I noticed along the lines there is lots of long grass, which I know is fire hazard, especially in the dry summers. Are we going to see any additional maintenance? I've also seen some leftover railroad ties from a project, I think about a year ago or whatever, that's sitting over off of First Avenue. I just would love to see if we can have a little bit better partnership with them to maintain their yard.
We will address that and do what we are able to do. Yes.
Thank you.
Our attorney has sidled up to me here. I don't know if he has anything to add to that.
No, I just had a few comments.
Okay, well, yeah, great. Before I pass it over to Joe, just to make a couple of announcements, I did want to mention one more thing. It was actually Councilor Banks said something earlier about that I was at the high school on the first day of school on Monday, and I thank you for saying that, because I wanted to let you know, Council, it's really encouraging. I'm very encouraged with our relationship with the school district. Our new superintendent, Downs, and I have actually met multiple times already in his short time here. He is clearly wanting to maintain good community relationships, and with the city specifically. He and I have a commitment to meeting with each other on a regular basis, at least monthly, if not more. And to that end, he invited me to come on the first day of school at the high school with him and just do a walk around on the lunch hour, which was a great time to kind of see everybody, and met a number of people. We also met some of the other high school administrators, and there's just a sense that the school district really wants to be a good partner with us, and I think we share that same sentiment that we want to be with them. And it was a lot of fun. It was just great to walk around. And Councilor Bangs, I promise next time I do that, I'll seek out your classroom. I believe I walked by a sign on one of the classrooms that perhaps had your wife's name on it, but I didn't see your classroom, so we'll do that. That's all I've got, but Mr. Lindsay has a couple of meeting announcements and kind of a public announcement effort that we want to make sure is out there.
Correct. So originally, we had planned on having a hearing for the State Street multifamily apartment that was going to be scheduled here on September 1st. That got set over to the next meeting that you're having, which is September 15th. I just wanted to have the opportunity to give one more form of notice/announcement so that anybody who's listening who wouldn't otherwise know can hear, okay, that meeting didn't happen tonight as it was noticed before, but now it's going to be happening 2 weeks from now. So it's just another bite at the apple of giving people notice and an opportunity to come if they want to come be heard. And that has to do with the development over by Elm Street that is a multifamily apartment. So if that also rings bells, it's called the State Street Multifamily Development. And then the other announcement I had is yet again an echo of Councilor Parker, so I'm getting in the habit of echoing him tonight, is the HLC, the Heritage Landmark Commission, is indeed meeting on the 9th to finally address the old City Hall. And what they're taxed with is whether or not a certificate of appropriateness is to be handed over to the people trying to develop the old City Hall. And what that essentially is the historic overlay protects that building and makes sure that anything that happens to the exterior of that building is appropriate in terms of like a historical understanding. So we have experts in that field listening to see what the developer is proposing to do to the exterior of that building to make sure that it is historically appropriate. The applicant has hired architects that are familiar with historical features of buildings and historical landmarks. And so the hope is that it all goes quite well and that everything that they're getting advice on is indeed historically appropriate so that they can, close in time to that meeting with that parchment in hand, work with the county to get the requisite permitting for the exterior and get underway so that when the weather turns here in about a month, we don't have an open eyesore of a city hall. We have a historically appropriate city hall that we, or I should say you all intended to make sure that it was preserved that way. So we're hopeful with what we're seeing in the packet. I'm actually going to go to that meeting as well in case I can be a resource, but also just hopefully to inspire the fact that we can get this thing done as quickly as possible. And thank you for your patience as we waited for architects and other folks to chime in on what needed to be done. So that, and then I guess for Councilor Varwig, just to end on a high note, the prize for knowing that the Grant Street was the actual street, you win a hot dog and a shaved ice on Tuesday at the Grill and Chill. Well done.
That's all from staff. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Muted. Thank you. Perfect. Let's see. Lost track of where I was at. I think we are in to the second opportunity for citizen input for this evening. Melissa, is there anyone wishing to address us on anything else?
There is not.
Okay. Then I will turn it over to you for action review.
You have approved the consent agenda. 2.5 hours.
All right. Almost 2.5 hours and we got one thing done. Fantastic.
Longest meeting ever for nothing on the agenda. Great job.
Good enough for government work, right?
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
That is next on the agenda to do so, and that has been motioned and seconded. So motion by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Spoon to adjourn. The non-debatable motion. Wow, you guys have got your hands up already, ready to go. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And it looks like that passes to adjourn. Camby, city staff, thank you very much. Appreciate you tuning in, and have a great rest of the week and a safe Labor Day weekend. All right, Canby, see you in 2 weeks.